There is a quiet waiting in the world, a silence that isn't born of peace, but of something far deeper, something unspoken. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand attention, it simply waits. We live in a time where the noise never ceases. The world pulls at us from every direction. The shrill cries of a chaotic society, the constant hum of a system built on distractions, the ever-present pressure to be more, do more, achieve more. And in all of this, there is a silence, buried deep within, that you can feel when the world stops, when the noise fades, and when no one's watching. It's not a silence of peace. It's not the calm after a storm. It's the silence of something missing, something once known, but now forgotten. It's the stillness in the midst of the storm, the quiet in the center of a world that spins out of control. And when you finally come face to face with it, when you stop long enough to listen, you realize something you hadn't before. This silence is not empty, it is full. The world around us might seem to be collapsing, and in many ways it is. Every day, new crises, new tragedies, new failures of society, of leadership, of our collective humanity. The noise gets louder, the demands get stronger, and it feels as if we are on the verge of losing everything. Yet, within that very collapse, there is a deep call for something else, a deeper way of being. It's a call to remember stillness, not as a luxury, but as a necessity, a call to stop, to pause, to listen to that voice inside that has been drowned out by the constant hum of external noise. That voice is not shouting for your attention, it is simply whispering, waiting for you to listen. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor of Rome, understood this. In a time when the Roman Empire was on the verge of collapse, beset by wars, political instability, economic failure, and personal loss, Marcus found something that many have overlooked. He found peace. Not through external circumstances, not through the empire's might or stability, but through an inner practice of reflection, of quieting the mind, of embracing stillness in the midst of chaos. His meditations, written as a personal journal, were not meant for the world to read. They were his sanctuary, his way of finding calm when the world around him was in turmoil. And even though we live in a world far removed from ancient Rome, his words are more relevant than ever, because the world isn't just falling apart, it's designed to make us forget the stillness inside of us. It's a noise so deafening that to be calm seems like an impossible task. But stillness is not an escape. It's not a retreat from the world. It's not an avoidance of the chaos. It is, in fact, the greatest resistance against it. When everything is falling apart, when the very fabric of society seems to be unraveling, to remain still is to declare that you are not a pawn in this madness. You are something more. In today's world filled with distractions, constant updates, and the unbearable weight of information, how can we possibly find this stillness? How can we reclaim the calmness that Marcus Aurelius once embodied? The answer is not in finding a quiet corner to retreat to. The answer lies in how we respond to the noise. Stillness is not a passive act. It's not about running away or pretending the world isn't crumbling. It's about facing the crumbling world head-on, with clarity, with composure, and with purpose. This call to stillness, to quiet the mind in the face of chaos, is not just some abstract philosophy. It is the key to surviving a world that is falling apart, not just surviving, but thriving in the midst of it. The world may never stop collapsing, but that doesn't mean you have to collapse with it. Marcus Aurelius's greatest lesson was not just about enduring life's storms, it was about navigating them with calmness, with strength, and with wisdom. His teachings weren't about avoiding chaos, they were about embracing it, acknowledging it, and finding peace within it. The noise around you will not stop. The world will continue to demand your attention, to pull you in every direction. But there is a stillness inside you that is not dependent on what happens around you. It is a power that comes from within, waiting for you to listen. And if you choose to listen, if you choose to find the stillness within, you will discover a peace that the world cannot take from you. It's time to stop running, time to stop hiding, time to embrace the quiet that is waiting for you. The world may be falling apart, but you don't have to fall with it. We are told that we live in unique times, that our struggles, our crises, our troubles are unlike any others that have come before. But in truth, the collapse we witness around us is not new. The world has always been falling apart. The Roman Empire, during the reign of Marcus Aurelius, was teetering on the edge of collapse. The empire that once spanned continents, that controlled vast armies and held the world in its grasp, was dying. Wars raged on multiple fronts. Disease and famine spread like wildfire. Corruption gnawed at the very heart of the state. The emperor himself, a man tasked with holding the empire together, was fighting not only external enemies, but internal decay. This was not an anomaly. It was the natural course of empires throughout history. They rise, they dominate, they flourish, but they always fall. And in their downfall, there is a certain clarity, a reflection of what was lost, what was ignored, and what was misunderstood. And today, we are no different. We look around at our world, and we see the signs, the increasing divisions, the breakdown of social structures, the erosion of trust in institutions, the fragmentation of what once seemed solid. There is no peace, there is no unity, there is only the constant hum of instability, a world that seems to be perpetually on the brink of something catastrophic. But here's the truth we refuse to acknowledge. The world is always falling apart. It always has been. It always will be. This is not a modern dilemma, it's a human one. Civilizations rise, they peak, they fall. And what we are witnessing today is simply the latest iteration of this age-old cycle. The collapse of the Roman Empire is not a relic of history, it is a mirror, a reflection of what we are now living through. We may believe that we have advanced, that our technology, our systems, our cultures are different from those of our ancestors. But are we truly different? Look at the state of the world today. Political corruption runs rampant, just as it did in Rome. Our cities are filled with the same poverty, the same desperation, the same sense of decay. Our leaders, no matter how well-intentioned, are too often caught up in the same power struggles that plagued the Roman Senate. We have modernized our empires, but the essence remains the same. The external world is unstable, and we are helpless against its collapse. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. The collapse of society is not simply something we observe from the outside. It is reflected in us. The chaos around us is a mirror of the chaos within. We too are experiencing our own personal collapse. Our own internal empires are falling apart piece by piece. We are constantly bombarded with distractions, with expectations, with fears and desires that pull us in 1,000 different directions. We build lives based on false comforts, seeking safety and predictability in routine, yet underneath it all, we feel the tug of something deeper, something unsettled. And as much as we deny it, we know this truth. We are not immune to the collapse. We are part of it. We are built to collapse. Our minds, our bodies, and our souls, they are all part of the endless cycle of rise and fall. The world is falling apart because we are falling apart. But what if that collapse is not a tragedy? What if it is a necessary process, a way for us to shed what no longer serves us, to let go of the falsehoods that bind us? What if the collapse, in all its pain and destruction, is the birthplace of something new? What if, like the Roman Empire, we must endure our own unraveling, in order to build a new foundation, one that is rooted in something deeper than the temporary structures we've clung to. We fear the collapse, we fight against it, but perhaps it is the very thing we need to embrace. Marcus Aurelius saw this. He understood that the empire was crumbling, and he knew that he could not stop it, but he also knew that his duty was not to control the collapse, it was to control how he responded to it. His own personal collapse, his own emotional struggles, his own doubts and fears were all reflections of the world around him, and in that collapse, he found his stillness, he found his peace. And we, too, must learn to find peace in the collapse. The world will continue to fall apart, just as it always has. The systems, the structures, the ways of life we have grown accustomed to will continue to erode. But in this process of decay, there is a possibility, a chance to strip away the falsehoods, to rebuild from the ashes, to find a new way of being. The collapse is inevitable, but what we do in response to it, how we navigate through it, is what defines us. We can choose to be consumed by the chaos, to drown in the noise, or we can choose to find our stillness in the eye of the storm, to learn from the fall, and to rebuild not from external power, but from an inner strength. The world is falling apart, but that doesn't mean you have to. In the whirlwind of chaos, amidst the relentless noise of the world, there is a quiet philosophy that promises peace. But peace isn't what most people expect. It's not the absence of struggle, not the absence of pain, nor the absence of conflict. True peace, as Marcus Aurelius understood, is not born from external circumstances, but from within. The storm rages around us. Society is in turmoil. The systems we rely on are crumbling, and yet there is a calm that waits for those who choose to find it. This calm isn't passive. It isn't a retreat. It's a force of nature in itself. It is the strength to face the storm, to meet it head-on, and still remain unbroken. This calm is found in Stoicism. Stoicism is not about denying the harshness of the world or retreating from it. It's about accepting the world as it is in all its chaos and learning how to live within it without being overwhelmed by it. At its core, Stoicism is a philosophy of control and acceptance. Control over oneself and acceptance of the world as it unfolds. This philosophy, practiced by Marcus Aurelius and other great minds like Epictetus and Seneca, teaches us one simple truth. We cannot control the world around us. We cannot control the actions of others. We cannot control the events that befall us, but we can control our response. And that response, that quiet power of inner control, is where peace lies. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot always control external events, we can always control how we choose to respond to them. This is the path of inner strength, to remain steady in the face of chaos, to choose virtue in the face of vice, to choose wisdom when ignorance threatens to consume us. Marcus Aurelius, as the Emperor of Rome, was not unfamiliar with chaos. He ruled during one of the most turbulent periods in Roman history. The empire was in decline, beset by wars, corruption, disease, and civil strife. The noise of the world must have been deafening, and yet, through it all, he found peace. But how? Not through external control, not through suppressing the storm, but through self-mastery. The power of Stoicism is not in controlling the world, but in mastering oneself. When Marcus faced the plagues that ravaged Rome, when he fought wars that seemed endless, when his empire crumbled under the weight of its own hubris, he turned inward. His meditations, written not for an audience, but as a personal journal, are a testament to the inner strength that Stoicism provided him. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. These words are not some lofty ideal. They are a guide to surviving in a world that is falling apart. In the face of external chaos, we are always left with one thing: our own minds. And it is within this realm, the realm of thought, reflection, and self-awareness, that we find the true power to remain calm. Stoicism teaches that we should not waste time or energy trying to control things outside of us. The world will do what the world does. People will act as they always do. Chaos will unfold as it always has. But we, the Stoics, are not helpless against it. We are not victims of the world. We have the power to choose how we respond. This is not easy. It is not about pretending that the world is not falling apart. It is not about ignoring the pain or pretending everything is fine. It is about acknowledging the pain, the chaos, the suffering, and still choosing to rise above it, still choosing to be virtuous in the face of vice, still choosing to be wise in the face of ignorance, still choosing to remain steady when the world around us is anything but. Marcus Aurelius knew this truth intimately. His life was not one of ease or comfort. His reign was filled with challenges, both personal and political. And yet, through it all, he remained grounded in Stoic thought. He embraced the struggles of life, not as burdens, but as opportunities for growth. He practiced what we must all learn to practice: acceptance. Acceptance of the world as it is, not as we wish it would be. Acceptance of the chaos, of the suffering, of the impermanence of life. And from this acceptance, he found peace. The storm of life will always be with us. The world will continue to fall apart in one way or another. But Stoicism teaches us that we are not victims of that collapse. We are the ones who choose whether to be overwhelmed by it or to stand firm within it. We cannot control the external world, but we can control our response to it. We can choose how to act, how to think, how to feel, and through that choice, we find peace. Not a passive peace, but a fierce, unwavering peace that is not dependent on what happens outside, but on what we choose to carry within. We look outward and see the world in turmoil. Governments falter, institutions collapse, people turn against each other, dividing into smaller factions, warring over ideologies, power, and control. The external chaos reflects something deeper, something that lies hidden beneath the surface of our own existence. The world, falling apart as it is not simply a reflection of the external. It is also a reflection of our own inner turmoil. The chaos outside us mirrors the chaos within. It's easier to point to the disarray in society, to blame the systems, the people, the forces that seem to have led us to this point. But to do so is to miss the deeper truth. The storm we see in the world is born of the storm that rages within us. This storm within is not something we acknowledge readily. It is the parts of ourselves we refuse to confront, the parts we suppress and deny. It is our shadow. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychiatrist, spoke often of the shadow, the unconscious aspects of ourselves that we reject, that we hide, that we refuse to face. The shadow is not evil. It is not an enemy. It is simply the parts of us that have been cast aside, the qualities, desires, and instincts we've ignored or repressed because society or even our own consciousness deems them unacceptable. But the shadow is not gone. It waits, and it grows in the dark. Marcus Aurelius, while dealing with the external chaos of ruling an empire in decline, understood the importance of facing his own inner shadow. He understood that the turbulence of the world was only a reflection of the turbulence within the human soul. Stoicism, while offering tools for external calm, also demanded a confrontation with the inner turmoil we carry with us. The internal chaos we face is not just a reflection of external events. It is a reflection of the unresolved conflicts within ourselves. The parts of us we hide, our anger, our desires, our fears, and our weaknesses, they do not disappear. They don't just vanish into oblivion. They fester in the darkness, growing stronger, more insistent, more dangerous. We have all known these parts of ourselves. The flashes of anger that rise unexpectedly, the overwhelming desires that we suppress, the fears we refuse to face. These are the shadows that haunt us. And just as the world around us falls apart, so too does our own sense of self when we refuse to confront the chaos within. We cannot ignore the shadow. It is not an external force to be vanquished. It is part of us, and it demands to be acknowledged. To confront the shadow is to face the parts of ourselves we have hidden, the parts of ourselves we have buried under years of conditioning, repression, and self-doubt. It is to embrace the darkness that lives within us, and to see it not as an enemy, but as a necessary aspect of our wholeness. Marcus Aurelius practiced this form of inner confrontation in his meditations. He did not shy away from the discomfort of his own emotions. He did not suppress his fears, his doubts, or his anger. He wrote about them. He reflected upon them. And in doing so, he faced the parts of himself that the world would rather have left hidden. The shadow is not an enemy. It is an invitation to look deeper into ourselves, to understand the forces that drive our thoughts, actions, and fears. To confront the chaos inside is to find clarity. To accept the darkness within is to shed the illusions that cloud our perception of who we are. The world outside may be in chaos, but the greatest battle we face is not in the streets or in the halls of power. It is within. The war against the external forces begins with the war within. This is the essence of Stoicism: to confront the inner world, to examine it with unflinching honesty, and to choose how to respond with clarity, wisdom, and virtue. The world may be falling apart, but our response to it depends entirely on how well we have faced the chaos within. Facing the shadow is not a one-time task. It is an ongoing process, a constant turning inward, a continuous examination of the aspects of ourselves that we would rather not see. The more we avoid the shadow, the more it controls us. The more we suppress it, the more it grows in strength, influencing our actions in ways we cannot see. The first step in embracing the shadow is to acknowledge it, to admit that we are not whole, that we are not perfect, that we have fears and weaknesses we wish to deny. And from that acknowledgement, we can begin the work of integration. The shadow becomes a part of us, not as a dark force to be vanquished, but as an ally, as a teacher, as a necessary component of our personal growth. The chaos within us is not something to be feared. It is something to be understood. Only by understanding our internal chaos can we hope to understand the external. Only by mastering our internal storms can we remain steady in the face of the world's greatest crises. The world is a constant storm. There is no peace in it. Every day it pulls us in, demanding our attention, our emotions, our very souls. The world is designed to keep us unsettled, to keep us afraid, to keep us chasing after something just beyond our grasp. Every news cycle, every headline, every moment of social media bombardment, it's all a part of a system that thrives on our anxiety, our fear, our desire for control in a world that is inherently out of control. We are told that we must fight to change the world, that we must act, push, strive, force reality to conform to our expectations. But this is the illusion. We can never control the world. We can never make the external circumstances behave the way we want them to. The more we try, the more we exhaust ourselves. The more we feed the very system that thrives on our restlessness. But what if we could change the only thing we have control over ourselves? This is the heart of Stoicism. Stoicism is not a philosophy of resignation or withdrawal. It is not a call to give up on the world or to ignore the chaos around us. Stoicism teaches that we can find calm in the eye of the storm, not by controlling the storm itself, but by mastering how we respond to it. The Stoic approach to life is the art of calm, the ability to meet the world's demands with clarity, with purpose, and with equanimity. In the world we live in, we are constantly pulled in different directions. There is always someone or something trying to control our attention, to dictate our thoughts, our actions, our desires. But the Stoic teaches that we are not subjects to the whims of the external. We are masters of our inner world, and in that mastery, we find true power. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled an empire on the brink of collapse, understood this power of inner control. His empire was in ruins, torn apart by corruption, war, and disease. Yet, despite the chaos that surrounded him, he remained grounded in his Stoic beliefs. He faced the world's worst crises with a calmness that would seem impossible to most. He did not try to control the empire. He did not fight to impose order on the world. He fought only to control his own mind, his own reactions, and his own emotions. In his meditations, Marcus constantly reminded himself of this, that peace is not found in external control, but in the discipline of the self. He wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This simple yet profound truth is the foundation of Stoicism. The mind is the key to peace. If we can master our thoughts, if we can control our inner state, we will remain unaffected by the chaos that surrounds us. But how do we do this in a world that thrives on fear, that constantly tells us we are not enough, that we need more, that we are in danger? The first step is to embrace the idea of acceptance. Acceptance is not about passivity or indifference. It is about acknowledging that the world is the way it is, messy, unpredictable, and often cruel, and choosing to accept it without resistance. Resistance only creates suffering. The more we fight against what we cannot change, the more we feed our anxiety, our frustration, and our anger. Acceptance does not mean we condone the chaos. It does not mean we resign ourselves to suffering. It simply means that we stop pretending that we can control everything. We stop believing that if we just try harder, push more, and fight the world, we will win. Instead, we accept that the only thing we truly have control over is our response. The second step is to reframe our thinking. In a world designed to make us afraid, to make us feel inadequate, to make us feel like we are always falling short, Stoicism teaches us to reframe our perspective. Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles, we can see them as opportunities for growth. Instead of seeing hardship as a punishment, we can see it as a teacher. Every difficulty, every trial, every moment of suffering is an opportunity to practice virtue, to develop resilience, and to grow in wisdom. When faced with a crisis, Marcus Aurelius would often remind himself, what is the nature of the thing I am dealing with? Is it something that affects me directly, or is it something external that I cannot control? By reframing the situation in this way, he was able to separate what he could control, his actions, his thoughts, and his responses, from what he could not. Reframing also allows us to step back from the immediate emotional reaction that often overtakes us in times of stress. We don't have to immediately react to every challenge with fear, anger, or frustration. We can choose to pause, to reflect, and to decide how we want to respond. This space between stimulus and response is the essence of Stoic practice. In that space, we find our power. Finally, Stoicism teaches the importance of virtue. In a world that constantly tells us that we must chase after external achievements, wealth, and success, The world is always changing. The landscapes shift. Empires rise and fall. Political systems evolve, and new technologies emerge, shaping the future in ways we cannot always predict. Yet, in this ever-changing world, there is one constant: the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, whose teachings continue to resonate long after the fall of the empire he once ruled. Marcus Aurelius did not seek fame. He did not write his meditations for posterity. His thoughts were not designed to be shared with the world. They were, rather, a personal exercise in self-reflection, a way for him to confront the chaos of the world, to find calm amid the storms of empire, and to cultivate the inner strength needed to lead effectively in such turbulent times. But in writing his personal reflections, he inadvertently created a timeless guide to surviving the chaos of life. His meditations are more than just philosophical musings. They are tools for navigating the internal and external storms of existence. In the pages of his writings, we find not just an emperor's thoughts, but the wisdom of a man who understood that true peace is not a product of external circumstances, but of the mind. Marcus Aurelius's legacy is not just that of a ruler, but of a Stoic philosopher who transcended the turmoil of his time and chose to live with purpose, clarity, and virtue. Despite the overwhelming chaos around him, his ability to remain calm and composed amidst personal loss, political instability, and war is nothing short of remarkable. His life and his thoughts are a reminder that we too can cultivate inner peace, no matter how chaotic the world becomes. The brilliance of Marcus Aurelius lies in his ability to embrace reality as it is, not as he wished it would be. He knew that life was filled with hardships, war, disease, betrayal, and death. He understood that there were forces beyond his control that would shape the course of his life and the empire. But in the face of this inevitability, he chose a different path. Rather than letting the world's chaos define him, he took control of his inner life. He cultivated a mind that was steady, focused, and resilient. In his meditations, we can hear the echoes of his Stoic beliefs: to live with virtue, to accept what is, and to control only what is within our power. He reminds us repeatedly that the only thing that truly belongs to us is our mind, our thoughts, our reactions, our values. Everything else is fleeting, temporary, and beyond our control. In this simple truth, Marcus Aurelius found peace, and in his teachings, we find the blueprint for achieving that peace. The beauty of Marcus Aurelius's wisdom is that it transcends time. Though his world was vastly different from ours, the struggles he faced, internal and external, are universal. The chaos he dealt with is no different from the chaos we face today. Governments fail, people suffer, life is unpredictable. And yet, despite it all, Marcus teaches us that we can remain rooted in our own sense of purpose, our own sense of calm, and our own sense of virtue. His philosophy is as relevant now as it was in ancient Rome. It is easy to look at the world today and feel overwhelmed, to see the crumbling systems, the societal breakdown, the environmental disasters, and the personal struggles that seem insurmountable. But Marcus Aurelius shows us that the key to survival, to truly thriving amid chaos, is not to fight against the world, but to change our relationship to it. The world will always be out of our control. What we can control is how we respond. What we can control is how we choose to act, to think, and to live. The timelessness of Marcus Aurelius's teachings lies in the fact that they are not dependent on any specific time or place. They are universal truths rooted in human nature. His philosophy is not a set of rigid rules or ideals to follow. It is a way of being, a way of living with purpose, with virtue, and with a sense of calm that transcends the external world. In a world that is increasingly chaotic, Marcus Aurelius's teachings provide a refuge. His words remind us that no matter how noisy the world becomes, we have the power to choose our response. His meditations give us the tools to remain steady, to practice resilience, and to live according to our deepest values even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. The legacy of Marcus Aurelius is not just about enduring hardship. It is about embracing the present moment, facing the chaos of life with clarity, and cultivating a peace that comes from within. His philosophy teaches us that while we cannot control the external world, we can control our internal world. We can choose to live with virtue, to act with purpose, and to cultivate the calm that comes from accepting what is, rather than fighting against it. In a world that constantly demands more work, more success, more things, more validation, it is easy to believe that peace is something to be achieved, something to be earned. We are conditioned to think that peace is a reward, something that we'll find when the circumstances are right. Once the chaos of the world settles, once we find the perfect job, the perfect relationship, the perfect balance, then, and only then, will we finally know peace. But peace is not a destination. It is not something that can be earned or found through external means. Peace is not the absence of noise, the absence of struggle, or the absence of chaos. True peace is something far deeper, something that exists not in the world around us, but within the core of who we are. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. Despite ruling over an empire in turmoil, despite enduring wars, plagues, and political unrest, he was able to cultivate a sense of calm that was not dependent on the external world. His peace was not a fleeting moment of quiet in the midst of an otherwise loud life. His peace was a steady presence, not an escape from the world, but a groundedness in the midst of it. In his meditations, Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that peace was not something that could be achieved by controlling external events. The empire would continue to crumble, death would come, people would betray him, the world would continue its chaotic dance, and yet none of this had the power to disturb his peace. For peace, he realized, was found not in trying to control the external world, but in accepting the world as it was and finding stillness within it. It is tempting to think of peace as a goal, something we can strive for and eventually attain. But this thinking is misguided. We cannot wait for the world to calm down before we find peace. We cannot wait for all the pieces of our life to fall into place. Peace must be cultivated within, here and now, in the middle of the storm. True peace is a way of being, not a final destination. It is not something we gain when everything is right. It is something we create within ourselves by choosing how we respond to the world. It is a practice, a daily discipline of coming back to ourselves, of centering our minds, of cultivating virtue, and of accepting the world as it is without resistance. One of the key aspects of Stoicism, and one that Marcus Aurelius practiced faithfully, was the idea of accepting what is beyond our control. We cannot control the world around us, but we can control how we respond to it. The world will always be in chaos. People will disappoint us. Life will not always go the way we want. But how we choose to react, how we choose to perceive these challenges, determines our peace. When we shift our focus from controlling the world to controlling ourselves, we reclaim our power. It is not about surrendering or giving up. It is about letting go of the need for external circumstances to dictate our internal state. Peace is found in the acceptance of what is, not in resistance to it. When Marcus faced challenges, he did not attempt to force the world to behave according to his desires. Instead, he turned inward, focusing on his thoughts, his reactions, and his responses. He practiced self-discipline, reframing challenges as opportunities for growth. and always striving to maintain his inner peace, regardless of the circumstances. This is the essence of Stoicism: to remain steady, calm, and virtuous regardless of the external noise. It is the art of turning inward when everything around us screams for our attention. It is the practice of finding stillness in the chaos and cultivating an unshakable peace that cannot be disturbed by the world. The world will continue to fall apart. The chaos will not stop. And yet, we have the power to remain steady. This does not mean we will never face hardship, that we will never feel pain, or that we will be immune to the storms of life. It means that we choose how we respond to those storms. We choose to remain calm. We choose to stay grounded in our values. We choose peace. Peace is not something that happens when the world quiets down. It is something we create within ourselves, moment by moment, day by day. It is the practice of acceptance, the practice of presence, and the practice of choosing to remain steady in the face of chaos. Marcus Aurelius did not find peace by escaping the world. He found it by accepting it fully in all its chaos, its pain, and its impermanence. He understood that peace comes from within. It is not a reward or a final goal. It is a way of being. And this is the challenge we all face: to cultivate that peace within ourselves, to stop waiting for the world to settle down and to begin living with calmness in the storm, because the storm will never stop. But peace, true peace, is always available to us, here and now. We are taught to avoid the dark. In a world that constantly seeks the light, the dark is seen as something to be feared, something to be banished, something that has no place in the world of success, of progress, of virtue. The light, we are told, is where we should reside, in the open, in the easy, in the comfortable, where we can be seen, praised, and celebrated. But what if the dark is not our enemy? What if the darkness within us, the parts we suppress and fear, is where our true strength lies? What if, in the quiet of the dark, in the silence of the things we avoid, is where we can find not weakness, but power? This is the essence of Stoicism. The Stoic does not shy away from discomfort. The Stoic does not run from hardship. The Stoic understands that the dark is not something to be defeated, but something to be embraced. The storms of life will come, the darkness will arrive, and we will face fear, loss, and suffering. But it is in how we meet that darkness that determines our strength. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, was not just reflecting on how to remain calm in the face of external chaos. He was confronting the darkness within. He was grappling with his own limitations, his own fears, his own doubts. In the quiet moments of reflection, he embraced the dark places of his soul not as weaknesses, but as part of his humanity. He understood that the external chaos mirrored the internal chaos, and that true peace came not from avoiding the darkness, but from facing it with clear eyes. We are not whole when we reject the darkness. We are whole when we accept it, when we integrate it, when we stop pretending that it isn't part of us. It is only in the dark that we find the space to grow. The dark is where we learn resilience, where we face our fears and confront the parts of ourselves that we would rather deny. To embrace the dark is not to indulge in it, but to accept it as a natural part of life. Stoicism teaches us that suffering is inevitable, but how we respond to that suffering defines us. We can choose to see suffering as something to avoid, or we can choose to see it as an opportunity to grow, to develop strength, to practice virtue. Marcus Aurelius did not pretend that the world was perfect. He did not close his eyes to the darkness. He faced it, and in facing it, he found peace. True strength comes from embracing the dark. It is not the absence of struggle that gives us power, but the willingness to stand in the middle of the struggle, and choose how we will respond. It is in the dark, in the discomfort, that we discover who we really are, not in the easy, comfortable moments, but in the times when we are pushed to our limits, when we are forced to confront our deepest fears and doubts. Stoicism is about building that strength. It is about standing firm when the world seems to be collapsing around us, when the storm is at its worst, when the darkness feels like it will swallow us whole. The Stoic does not avoid the dark. The Stoic embraces it, knowing that in the dark lies the potential for growth, for resilience, and for inner peace. The quiet strength of Stoicism is found in the moments when we stand in the face of our fears, in the moments when we confront the parts of ourselves we would rather leave hidden. It is in those moments that we discover what we are truly capable of. The world may never stop being chaotic, and our internal darkness may never disappear, but we can choose to meet it with strength, with grace, and with courage. Marcus Aurelius taught us that peace does not come from the absence of the dark. It comes from learning to stand in it, to accept it, and to find the stillness within it. It comes from the quiet strength that comes not from avoiding suffering, but from confronting it head-on. In the dark, we find the light, but not the superficial light of happiness or comfort. We find the deeper light, the light of understanding, of acceptance, and of inner strength. The Stoic path is not one of easy answers or avoidance of pain. It is a path of deep inner work, of embracing the full spectrum of life, the light and the dark, and choosing to live with virtue regardless of the circumstances. So, the next time you face the dark, do not shy away, do not run, stand firm, embrace it. The darkness is not your enemy, it is the soil in which your true strength will grow. There comes a point in every life when you realize the path you've been walking is not your own. It may be subtle at first, a quiet feeling that lingers, a sense that something vital has been left behind. You can go on for years, decades, even without noticing. The noise of life drowns out the voice inside, the one that has always known the truth. But eventually, it comes, unmistakable and clear. You've strayed too far from the person you were meant to be. You think it's over. You think you missed your chance. That too much time has passed. Too many decisions made. Too many paths taken. You tell yourself that the life you've created, with all its compromises and detours, is the only one you can live now. That it's too late to change. Too late to be who you were always meant to be. But what if that's not true? What if the self you abandoned, the one you left behind, never really left? What if they've been there all along, patiently waiting for you to remember? We are taught to believe that time moves in a straight line, that every moment lost is gone forever, never to return. But the truth is, the self you could have been, the version of you that you abandoned, has not vanished. They have been waiting for you, quietly, patiently, just beneath the surface, just beneath your fear and doubt. The version of you that you could have been has not disappeared. They are still here, watching, waiting for the moment when you finally turn back to face them. This self you've left behind is not a fantasy. They are not a mere figment of your imagination. They are a part of you, a part that was hidden away, repressed, or forgotten. They are the person you could have been if you had followed your heart, your truth, your instincts. They are the one who knew what you needed before the world told you what you should want. The one who was unafraid to speak, to act, to live without permission. But somewhere along the way, you abandoned them. You chose safety over authenticity. You chose acceptance over truth. You chose comfort over courage. And in doing so, you buried a part of yourself. But they are still here, waiting for you to return. They have never left. They have been with you through every moment of doubt, every decision to shrink, every time you denied yourself for the sake of fitting in. They are the one who remembers who you really are, who you always were. They are the one who holds the key to your freedom, your power, your peace. And when you finally stop running, when you finally choose to listen, you will find them waiting, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with open arms. They are not here to punish you for the years lost. They are here to welcome you back, to remind you that it is never too late to become the person you were always meant to be. This is not a return to some idealized version of the past. It is a return to yourself. The self you abandoned was not perfect, but they were true. And in their truth, they carried the wisdom, the strength, the light that you've been searching for in all the wrong places. The road ahead will not be easy. There will be moments of discomfort, moments of doubt, moments when you wonder if it's worth it. You will face resistance both from the world and from within. But you must keep walking, because every step brings you closer to the person you were always meant to be. Every step is a reclamation of your true self, the one who has been waiting patiently all this time. This self that you have forgotten is not lost forever. They have not been erased. They are still there, waiting for you to remember. And when you do, when you finally choose to acknowledge them, you will find that they are not a stranger. They are you, the you who was always there, the one who has been with you through everything. And when you stand face to face with them, you will hear the words you've been longing to hear. I'm still here. I've been waiting for you. It's not too late. You can still be who you were always meant to be. Becoming yourself is not a destination, it is a return to the self you left behind, to the life you could have lived, to the person you were always meant to be. And when you take that step, when you choose to face the one who has been waiting for you, you will realize that the journey you've been on with all its detours and losses has been part of the process. It has all led you to this moment, to this realization that you were never really lost. You were simply waiting to remember. Now, the real journey begins, not toward a destination, but toward the truth of who you are. And you are not alone. The one who waited for you is here, right here, inside you, guiding you home,